Hi, today I've come out into this vast expanse of woodland. It's all birch woods, and what I'm looking for is the horseshoe fungus. Now, the horseshoe fungus contains a material called Amadou. I've never used this stuff before, but when it's processed you can use it to create like a faux leather to make hats and items of clothing and decorative things. If you're a bushcrafter, then you can use it to make a really good tinder, firelighting material, and if like me you're a fly fisherman, then you can use it to make patches because of its super water absorbency to dry your dry flies in between casts. Let's go take a look. Now that was kind of the 6th or 7th take of making that little intro about the horseshoe fungus, because I did it perfectly well, and then realized that I kept referring to it as the horseshoe fungus, and of course it's not. Now when I can find some in a minute, then you'll see why it's called the horseshoe fungus. It's really cool stuff. It's very distinctive. It comes in all different shapes, and I've seen it in all different shapes, from tiny to huge, and apparently the best size for harvesting the Amadou is around 3 to 5 inches across. So I'm going to keep hunting. Apparently it grows best on dead birch, and there's certainly plenty of dead birch here. Oh, and there's some. I found some. Boy, there's plenty of dead birch around. According to the information on the internet that I read, if this stuff starts to grow on living birch trees, it actually kills the tree. So let's keep hunting. I found some there, but it looks kind of old and very rotten. So we'll keep going for a sec. Birch woodlands must be probably my favourite kind of woodland, because it's just so full of stuff that I want to use, from the horseshoe fungus to birchwood, birch bark, loads of mushrooms. In this area where I'm stood today, allegedly there are over 500 different species of fungi. So being the fun guy that I am, I'll keep my eyes open. I've seen some. Can you see this? Over there. Now as I walk in, I'll try not to drop the camera as I walk in, and you'll see, okay, famous last words, you'll see exactly why it's called the horseshoe fungus. Look at this stuff. This is cool. That one's quite large. That one's quite large. This one's a bit smaller, so I think I'll make that my target. But as you can see, it's growing on a dead birch. Let's take it. Now, because I've never harvested this stuff before, I've brought along a little selection of cutting tools in my pack. So I've got an axe, a very sharp knife, and a folding saw. We'll see. I'll start with the knife, I think. So this is the first one I'm going to try and harvest. Look at that. Okay, that was easier than expected. No tools, just a good old whack with my hand. Now when I get this home, I'll show you how to do it properly, I'll try and show you how to do it properly, how to harvest the Amadou inside. But basically you've got to carve off this outer hoof type stuff, and that gives you access to the Amadou in the center. Let's get some more. Save this for later. Firelighting material. Okay, this one is a bit harder. Okay, it's very hard. Now, whenever I'm harvesting, get rid of the knife. Now, I'm a great believer and an advocate for the ethos and ethics of leave no trace. So when I come outdoors and I'm harvesting stuff, whether that's wild foods or things like the horseshoe fungus, I always make sure to leave plenty behind so that the plants can repopulate and so there's plenty of food for anything that does rely on it. Awkward silence. Whilst I'm out in the woods, I thought I'd take the opportunity to introduce you to my rucksack of the day. No surprises, it's from Karrimor SF. Now usually for a day in the woods like this, I would rely on my Karrimor SF Sabre 30, a 30 litre day pack. But today I'm trying something new. For the first time, I'm trying this, the Predator 30. The Predator 30 is in essence the same bag as the Sabre 30. It's got the same durable water repellent material, the same zipped top flap compartment, the same bungee cord on the top, the same elasticated side pockets, adjustable shoulder harness and waist belt, and cool mesh back system. The key difference, the only difference is that the Predator 30 is covered in molly webbing. What that gives you is the opportunity, should you need to increase the load carrying capacity of your pack by adding small molly patches to the outside. Predator 30. Well, I think I can safely say that if I need more Amadou at any point, more Horseshoe Fungus, this is the place to come and get it. It's everywhere I look. Now that my eyes have tuned in, everywhere I'm seeing this stuff. Now when I've done my research online into how to process this stuff, it's kind of a process of soaking and boiling. One of the things that comes up every time to make the Amadou a better product is to add ash from a birchwood fire to the water. So the next stage is I'm just going to pick up some birchwood twigs, I go home, light a fire, collect the ash, add it to the water, and let's process the Amadou. Yeah, I know I want to collect some firewood, but these are probably a little bit too big to top flap. This area is littered with an abundance of birch bark. This is really good for firelighting, so I'll drop some of this in my sack and take this home too. I'm going to call it a day. I've harvested enough horse's hoof to get the Amadou that I require to have a go at processing it. All I'm going to do now is find a nice log to sit on, have a cup of coffee, sit quietly and watch nature happen around me. I like this time of day. It's kind of gold. I like this time of day. It's kind of, for me, golden hour in the woods. The sun starts to dip, the temperature drops, the place goes quiet. For me, this is a really good time to grab a cup of coffee, sit still, watch, listen, smell, and learn. Now apparently if you're going to use the Amadou as a fire lighting material, it pays to put some wood ash from a birchwood fire into the water whilst it soaks and boils. So I've cleaned out the wood burner, I'm going to light a fire and have a coffee. What are you doing, Dad? Whilst the birchwood is in the fire burning down to ash, I thought I'd grab a coffee and do some research on the next stage of the process. Now the next stage of the process looks really easy. It's extracting the Amadou from the Horseshoe Fungus. My guess is it's going to be a bit more fiddly than these guys on YouTube make it look. We'll see. So I've come into the workshop and I'm going to try and extract the Amadou from a few pieces of Horseshoe Fungus. Now I've never done this before, so okay, the light's on the blink, that's not helpful. I've never done this before, so I've got no idea how difficult this is going to be. My guess is it's going to be fiddly. The Amadou is in a layer beneath this hard outer. So I cut a bit off, which I've lost, of another one, but you can see here. So you've got kind of this hard outer shell. Then the gills of fungus here, and then the Amadou kind of lays in between that. This stuff here is really, really, really tough. So I've been chipping it off with an axe and then trying to cut the gills away with a knife. Let's carry on. this stuff is crazy hard. Yeah, this is definitely fiddly stuff. So there's one harvested piece of Amadou in the pot. I'm going to crack on with this for half an hour to an hour, see how much more I can get. So I'll turn the camera off and come back. Earlier on, whilst I had coffee, I set fire to a couple of birch logs to get some birch ash, which when you mix with water is the stuff that's going to make this better. I don't know why. I'll look at the science. So that's it, my Amadou and birch ash. Soak it in water and leave it for an hour. Right, so the Amadou has been soaking for around 2 hours in a water birch ash solution. Now it goes on the agar, bring to the boil, and boil for an hour. Amadou, do, shake the birch tree, watch it fall. What is it they say about a watch pot? Doesn't this just look delicious? No, probably not. Point to note, I've just been told off for inappropriate use of a saucepan, so don't try this at home, kids, without adult supervision and approval. Okay, this has been simmering away on the agar for about an hour, 20, an hour 30. Before that it was soaked in cold water for a couple of hours, so I'm now going to take it off the heat, let it cool naturally, and then extract the Amadou before the next stage of the process. So at this point the Amadou has been extracted from the Horseshoe Fungus. It's been soaked in ash water for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and roughly, and it's been boiled for about an hour 20, an hour 30. And the next stage apparently is to just slightly bash it, which breaks up the fibres and makes it a better firelighting material. So again, going back to my YouTube tutorials, the guys on YouTube have just used the back of the axe and literally just used the weight of the axe to drop. Again, it's a bit like tenderizing a steak, right? Now I've pounded the life out of these pieces of Amadou, so all the fibres should be broken up. The next stage is to dry it out, so I'm just going to leave it in this foil tray on a warm but not boiling part of the agar. I guess for as long as it takes. The Amadou's been drying for about 2 days, 2.5 days in a warm spot near the agar, and it's pretty much ready to go. Now you can try and light this with a flint and steel. I don't use a flint and steel, but I do often carry a ferro rod, so I'm going to give it a bash with this. So the trick apparently is to kind of rough it up a touch. Get some more of the loose fibres going. And then let's see what happens. There's a bit of a glow. It works! It actually works. It actually works. I've managed to get a full-on glow on this stuff, and it would be easy from here to turn that into a fire, which I'm not going to do because I'm in my workshop and it's smoky, and that was a big mistake. But it works. Well, that was cool. I did something and it worked. It should have worked. I did loads of research. Would I recommend you try it? Absolutely. If you've got permission to go onto land and to harvest stuff, to extract stuff, then give it a bash. It's really quite an interesting experiment. Well, it's not really an experiment because it's been done throughout history. But it's definitely a cool thing to do. If you do go out and harvest the horseshoe fungus, please make sure you don't take too much. Make sure there's plenty left for nature. Be safe and leave no trace.